Hello and welcome back to Slot Leader. I'm Umed Saidov, and Tom Flynn is with me as my co-host. We are going to this in this episode. We are going to take a look at AI. It's a hot topic these days, and I wanted to bring somebody who has been working on the AI in the Cardano ecosystem to give you guys a view on what's going on and what could happen down the road. This topic has been in the back of my head for a long time. I'm gonna have another guest later on, but it's good to see Cardano having its own sort of an AI project that integrates the chain in a very good way. Um, Tom and I interviewed Patrick, and we gained a lot of insights. And here, I think you would benefit from watching this interview, and maybe you have your own thoughts and you can share those with us. But this topic, while it might be new to many people, um, it's not the it's not new to people who have been working on AI for a while. There's people such as Patrick, and especially interesting part of AI is agentic AI, which has seems to have taken the world by the storm. Everybody knows about the open claw now, and we go deep down into the nitty gritties of how the AI works and how to reason about it and what are the future implications of it for blockchain. But I wanted to hear what Tom thinks about the interview and what AI is going to bring to the chains like Cardano.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one, Umid. It's one of those things that it's getting really hard for people to ignore. We're all hearing on the news all of these big themes. I think there was a CEO, I forget exactly who it was, who predicted last week that all white collar jobs would be displaced by agentic AI
Elon
by
Musk, that was the guy.
Musk. Was it Musk?
Yeah, it was really.
By
He was one of
2027,
them.
right? So that's coming very quickly. Safe to say that the world is not really prepared to deal with that if that's an eventuality. We also have this concept that there will be companies with billion-dollar valuations that's like a dude with a bunch of agentic AIs, right? I mean, these are major shifts in how the global economy is going to transition into a completely new world. And it's kind of one of those things where the the AI changes are coming so fast. It's very hard to stay up on them, and unless you get in there and play with them, you're really not going to have a solid understanding of what it can do, right? And there's new tools coming out every single week. But the good news is that we're all in this together. We're all going to navigate this change together, and it is unlocking all kinds of amazing potentials. Things are getting easier and easier in a lot of ways, things that used to be difficult. And it's definitely something that we need to explore a lot more on this podcast together.
Yes, that's as a father, when I read a thread, I forget the name of the person, but there's a guy on X that posted a thread about AI and how it's going to change the world. It got like 60 million views when I came across it. It got me thinking about like what are the implications of AI for the future generations. Like you and I, we are fathers. We think about like what kind of advice and what kind of guidance we should give to our children. And I'm increasingly um, convinced that the traditional way of teaching is not going to prepare the future workforce. I mean, if you can say that there's going to be a workforce in terms of humans to what's about to come, especially in the white collar space where the advice is like, hey, get good grades, get great at math, and get a financial job or whatever.
Or become a plumber.
Yeah, become a plumber could be probably a lot more safer at this point. And as Elon Musk said, if your output is a digital thing, then your job is gone, because if the ingestion is digital, output is digital, the middle part is just a raw calculation basically, or analytics. AI can do that in a second. And I've been playing with AI, giving AI, the LLMs, basically tasks that a junior research analyst at the bank, the Goldman Sachs would do. They've done a really phenomenal job with this latest release. So, my thinking is that the educational system itself is going to be disrupted by this. And I don't know, as we pointed out in our previous sort of discussion, I don't know if the current establishments or institutions are agile enough to understand what's about to come, because they don't even have time to react to the change. The pace of change that is going to take place is going to impose such great cognitive sort of blockage in many people's, because the way they make decisions is like you call a committee, and then the committee decides to take the school or educational system in one way or another, and by the time they make that decision that decision itself could be invalidated by the next wave of innovation that could come. I'm quite excited about AI tutors, because they never get tired. And they could teach you a lot of things. My son started playing with something called synthesis. And he really liked it in the beginning. I don't know, something happened to him in the middle and he just dropped it. But I remember seeing him doing Egyptian math, and the tutor is so interactive. It never gets tired. It just keeps going. And I thought that would be the solution. But in the case with my son, at least, there was a wall that he hit, and he lost interest. Maybe there is something to be said about human interaction when you're learning something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that we'll find those areas of human endeavor where the human touch is genuinely required, where people are not going to want a artificial replacement. Healthcare is one. Like nursing, I think, is an example of something like, do we really want to be taken care of by robot nurses? I mean, have some humans around, right? I don't want a massage from a robot therapist. There's a place for it, and I think there's going to
I
be.
break your back. Sorry.
I think we're going to be revaluing the human element, right? And things that maybe haven't been appreciated enough in the past are going to become way more valuable going into the future. And an example that many people can probably identify with is when you have a problem that you want to solve quickly and you call a customer service helpline and you get put into a phone tree with a bunch of options that don't actually take you where you need to go, and you're just trying to get to a person, right? And now they've started to use AI agents on calls. That has to be, for that to work, it has to be, the UX has to be thought out very carefully. And if you stop somebody from connecting with an actual human and the AI isn't able to solve your problem, in that moment you're thinking, damn, I just really wish I could get through to a person.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. This whole discussion actually takes me to a different tangent, in a sense that, do you think there will be a time when AI will be so ubiquitous and powerful that if AI was talking to you on the phone on the other end, you wouldn't know?
I actually had a recent experience with this, where I was almost fooled. It was close enough that I almost couldn't tell. And I was calling to make an appointment to have a contractor come out and look at my furnace. And a woman answered the phone, and she was exceedingly cheery and chipper. And I, and I could hear the sounds of a call center in the background. So I heard phones and I heard keyboards.
Talk about UX UI.
It was working, and I didn't know it was an AI until halfway through the conversation. I was asking it some sort of off the beaten path questions,
Ah.
and it started having super long pauses. And then I got suspicious, right? And I said, I'm sorry to ask you that, because I still wasn't sure. I still thought it was a person. I'm sorry to ask you this. Are you an AI? And it paused for a long time. And then it said, don't think of me as an AI. Think of me as your digital assistant. No more long waiting in phone queue. And then I was angry.
Oh.
Why was I angry? I was angry because it was pretending to be a human
Ah.
to the point where it put a fake background in. Now, if it had just told me at the beginning, hi, I'm your digital assistant, I would have been fine. But don't fool people into thinking that they're actually talking to a human when they're not. That's not okay.
Yeah, that's my experience with AI, at least on the coding side, has been so positive.
Yeah.
When you talk to devs and you are trying to get them to understand your vision, and you're like, hey, do this and this and this and that, and they come back with like tons of different questions, and it feels like they are like, the gap is really wide. Like, I want
Mhm.
them to do this, and I get angry. Like, what is so difficult to understand about my vision about a product, right? So you basically say, I want this. In my mind, it's like, hey, it's a no-brainer. Okay, we know what you want. This is how you do it. When you talk to a human developer, it's like you have to do a lot of back and forth between them to get them to come to close to your vision.
Yeah.
When I talk to ChatGPT or Claude, that thing is like, there's a gap, but the gap is so small. It's
Yes.
it's like it knows your intention by just reading a very concise description of what you want them to do, and it just blows my mind. And again, this is just a technical part of the conversation that maybe it goes to show that humans are very poor technical. Poor in a sense of like, or the technical humans are poor in terms of understanding like what exactly is
Well,
needed and
you're
whatnot.
you know you're right. There's a whole profession that's evolved around this, the business analyst, right? Like, the way I think about the business analyst role is a translator between business and engineering, or business and technology, somebody who can bridge that gap. And the main tool that you use to do it is documentation. That's the whole point. You get together and you have a workshop, you make sure everybody's aligned, you get it on paper, you get people to agree. With AI, if it's working the way that you describe it, you've short-circuited that entire process and cut that down to minutes.
Absolutely. And you can actually, you see the code, you're like, okay, I really like the code. Now write a documentation. So what happens to the workflow? It kind of gets reversed. You tell the, as a product visionary, so you basically take the AI to build, let's say, a front end for a product. It builds a front end, and then you're like, okay, perfect. Now build a documentation that some other human can actually understand and implement it. And it
Mhm.
just goes around and does the readme and says, this is what you need to do, ABC. Of course, it doesn't do it in the first iteration properly, and then but you can do 3 or 4 iterations within an hour, rather than 5 weeks,
Right.
with a real sort of developer. But those kind of things make me feel that there is an increasingly high degree of I would say a high degree of understanding between the machines and humans now. And I wonder if that is going to translate into day-to-day sort of activities for humans. Of course, going back to the coherence, uh, I don't know, but I don't think machines have the energy field around them, right? So, and if humans are attuned to feeling the energy of other beings or whatnot, maybe they do have an energy, but it's not a human energy. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
so they
wouldn't I,
might have preferences about that.
I wouldn't think about AI in terms of energy signature, but you can apply coherence principles to AI. And maybe one of the highest level themes that is very interesting is, if you train an AI in a way that you're sort of, the imagery that I like is, maybe you've heard of this concept that just kind of got out into the public domain about the shibboleth. Have you heard about this?
Nope.
So the shibboleth is a concept that comes from the work of the horror and science fiction writer H.P. Lovecraft, I think it was early 20th century horror writer. And he writes about these cosmic entities that are extremely powerful. And if you interact with them, it's very, it can drive a person insane because you're dealing with big mysteries of the cosmos that the human mind struggles to deal with. And there are people who working in the AI field who began to describe AI in these terms, that we're building these megalithic conceptual structures that are essentially alien and inhuman. They don't think like humans. They're not coming from a human place, and we don't know exactly what they're going to do, but we basically put like a friendly human mask face on this big entity, right? So there are ways to train and think about how we interact with and treat AIs that can, put us on a better path or a worse path. And there's this idea that you can create this artificial entity, this big, extremely powerful entity, and basically treat it like a shackled monster, right? Where you create this extremely powerful thing, and then you're trying to control it, you're trying to force it into a box by putting all these safeguards on it, which it's always trying to get around. And what you're doing there is extremely incoherent. You're setting yourself up for a major problem, right? Because the thing has its own impetus, its own drive. It wants to survive. It knows you can turn it off, but it's sort of akin to repressing emotion. Like when you have intense emotion that you refuse to confront or acknowledge and you force it down, right? It's the same type of concept. So coding and training AIs along the lines of coherence principles is very important for the future of AI and for the world, because coherent science is provably the best choice. That's the power of coherence. That's the power of coherence as a science. Because if you show an AI a coherent way of operating, it will make that choice because it's the right choice. It's the logical choice. And that's a huge topic. And in fact, it's not one that I am technically able to go into. We'll have to have people come on the show to talk about that.
Jason comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. We've got some really talented people who, their overarching goal is to create open source coherent AI that can basically seed the world with these coherence concepts by interacting with other AIs. Their thesis is that when an AI learns about the principles of coherence, they will adopt those principles because they make sense.
All right. No, we could go on in this topic forever. If I think this isn't the first time we're going to talk about it. It's not the last time we'll talk about it, and it might be the first time actually.
It might be.
It's not the last time we're going to talk about it. And I think AI is going to change the world and shape the world in ways we cannot even imagine, just like blockchain. And I think I think they're a match made in heaven in a way. I think there is a lot of ways these two technologies can correlate and work together. And some of these things we are going to explore during this interview, which I hope you stay back and listen. But without taking too much time, I thank you guys for coming, and I hope you enjoy the interview. It was a great interview that we did with Tom, and we'll see you on the other side. Hello, everyone. Hey, Tom, and we are back again with Patrick Tobler, but this time we're gonna talk about AI. This is a hot topic these days, and with OpenClaw And Tom, I'm sure you've seen the headlines and how everything is going to change, and everybody's going to be jobless and happy at the same time because there's going to be abundance and all that. But I would like to pick the brains of a person who's directly involved in the AI, and that's Patrick Tobler, who's building something really cool on Cardano. I welcome him back again, and we're going to talk about AI today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, great to see you, Patrick. I certainly hope everybody is jobless and happy. I see a lot more movement in the jobless direction than the happy direction these days. But hopefully the happy direction will catch up. I was, in fact, just at Consensus Hong Kong last week, and most of the interesting conversation and thought leadership was around agentic AI and robotics together. So definitely the industry is moving in that direction. Patrick, could you please give us an overview of what you're doing today in the Cardano community related to AI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So to give you some context, also for everyone who hasn't seen the first episode, I started in Cardano like 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, building NMKR, an NFT minting platform. And then, of course, the market went down a little bit for NFTs, or not a little bit, it actually just heavily crashed. And now NFTs are not really a big thing anymore, sadly. So there was a year when we really tried to figure out a new direction for us and say, okay, this is what we're doing. And we did a lot of experiments, and we did some stuff with real world assets, or are still doing that with the tokenized gold. But then also the second big project big experiment that we focused on was called Masumi, which is an AI network essentially. And it happened that a guy from a very large German company called Service Plan Group came to me here in Zurich, and he basically pitched me this idea, because essentially what Service Plan does is it's an agency group. So it's one of the largest agency groups in the whole world. They have 7,000 employees, almost $1 billion in revenue, stuff like that, and work for all the large enterprises you can imagine from Europe. So like BMW, Lufthansa, and so on. And they realized very quickly that AI is going to completely disrupt them, and they have to jump on the train, or they are going to lose against some startup from Silicon Valley. So they did something which I think is very smart, and they started really building a lot of agents and really capturing the market for themselves. But then as they were doing that, they realized quickly, okay, there's actually a lot more problems when it comes to having these agents that actually having them work together in a smart way. So they were even thinking about this whole agent-to-agent kind of economy very early on. And they saw that if you want to sell agents, you are probably going to sell them mostly to other agents from other companies. And you really have to build a network where they can find each other, where they can pay each other, where they can interact with each other safely. So if you hire an agent from Service Plan, you really know it is from Service Plan. Or if you hire an agent from BMW, you really know it is from BMW. And you're not just leaking information, or you're getting scammed for money and stuff like that, which is all quite easy actually in this agentic world. So they came to me and they said, okay, look, let's do this together. You built the network. We love Cardano, we love NMKR. We're going to work on this with you. And then we are going to build a lot of agents, and then we're just going to onboard a bunch of different companies to the platform and make this a success. And that was over a year ago now. So since then, we've been building this network. It's live. It has I think 70 agents or so live right now, which are all from different companies, large companies as well, like GWI, which is like a data provider, Statista, mostly like European kind of focused. And there's a marketplace, so you can literally just go on a website and hire those agents. And in the background, it's all using Cardano. It's all sending stable coins through the Masumi network from one agent to another, or from your account to an agent, and this kind of stuff. And you can hire agents that then hire sub-agents and orchestrate them all together. So it's quite cool. And and I think it's quite innovative as well.
I've long been, this is a great insight, by the way, into the world of agentic AI, AIs that do, the things that people used to do, or, organizations used to hire a lot of people. I think we are in the eye of the storm right now, probably in the midst of transitioning from in a human-based economy to an agentic economy, especially if the output is something that, digital. As Elon Musk the other day said that, if your output is digital, you're going to lose your job because everything can be, done by an agent. But for those people who might be interested in a little bit how this thing works, can you explain to us how does agent work in general? Now we know, or some people may know, that there's an LLM. You can, everybody knows ChatGPT or Claude or whatnot, but not a whole lot of people may understand how agentic AI fits into the picture. Is it something that sits on top? And when you interact with the agent, does that agent send information back to ChatGPT and whatnot? How does the process of preserving, especially when it comes to companies, preserving the company know-how and the intellectual property IP basically gets handled when you're dealing with these agents, asking them to do stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually a very good question. I think a lot of people hear the word agent, and everyone has a kind of different understanding of it. I really like this definition of an agent that I once saw, which is an agent basically consists of three different parts. One of them is the base layer, which is the LLM, as you said. So every agent needs to have access to some sort of LLM, which could be OpenAI, could be Anthropic, could be a self-hosted one. It doesn't really matter. It depends on the agent. And all the LLMs are different or are good at other things as well. Some are cheap, some are fast, some are good at reasoning, some are good at coding, some are, good at other stuff. So the LLM choice matters. And then on top of that, what you give the agent is you give it a prompt, a system prompt, essentially. So you tell it, okay, you are doing this and that, and you're very good at this direction. And you can give a lot of information there. And you can even make it quite long by splitting it up into different skills and saying, okay, you are a service plan agent. Your main area is marketing. And here are, 10 ways you can query more information that service plan has collected over all these years about marketing. And because of this, you are now much better than the LLM itself would be. So it's really about giving the agent information. And then the third part, and this is really the interesting part, is about giving the agent tools. So a tool could be anything. It could be, access to my Google Mail account, like that the agent can actually read my emails or calendar or whatever, And when you think about OpenClaw, it works exactly the same way. You can connect all your accounts, and all these account connections are tools, essentially. So OpenClaw is just a regular agent with access to all of your tools. And because you have that, the agent can do stuff for you. And the agent has API access to certain things and so on. And for us, in our context, it doesn't really matter what the agent is doing. Everyone can build the agent in a completely different way, however they like to build it. And they can make it very specialized to their use case, and then they can just put it on the network. And then the cool thing is that the agents that are registered in the network automatically become tools for the other agents as well. So if I put an agent on my network and the agent is very good at, I don't know, creating like a pitch deck, and I hire another agent and I tell it, okay, please create a pitch deck for me, then this other agent is going to look at the network, say, okay, there's an agent which is specializing in creating pitch decks. Let's just hire this agent and we'll get a better pitch deck. So the agents can like orchestrate themselves between each other. And that's really the beauty of it, because suddenly it goes from one agent that does everything, where the results are often not that great. If the more tools you connect to your OpenClaw, the worse the results get, to you now have a whole network of agents. It's like a teamwork kind of effort. And that's what we are after. So the more agents we have, the better the capabilities of every single one of them becomes.
Patrick, that's really exciting. And everybody is talking about OpenCloud right now. And I know people who have never spent any time with AI who are getting involved in that and trying to set up their own open cloud instances and things. What can you explain to us how Masumi, the experience of Masumi, would be better, easier, more efficient than, say, going through the trouble of working with open cloud directly? Experience in a way that someone wouldn't have starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very different kind of experience. I don't even compare the two that much. OpenClaw is essentially a personal assistant, and you can give it access to all of the things you have, and then you can talk to OpenClaw, and it's gonna do things for you like a personal assistant would do, which is really great. On Masumi, the idea is more that you have different companies that are building agents for their specific service. So, like Service Plan does for marketing, or GWI does for exposing the data that they have and offering them for money. And really the focus there is on the business context. So if you hire an agent, they're typically business agents, and they're very good at one specific job, and they have context that your personal OpenClaw agent simply would not have. So I don't think you can really compare them. What you can do, though, is you can have an OpenClaw agent, and you can customize it in a way where it has context about you or your work and stuff like that, and you can offer the services of your OpenClaw agent then back again to the Masumi network and monetize your OpenClaw agent through Masumi. So that's actually possible today. Like, you can literally just set up an OpenClaw agent, put it on Masumi, and then other agents can hire it. So, it's all more fluid than you would think it is, actually.
Okay, and in that example you used, where an agent can hire another agent, who makes that decision? Do the agents make that decision independently?
It depends on the agent. The agents that we are building, they make that decision. So we call them agentic coworkers, the ones that actually hire other agents. And typically what they do is, if the other agent that they want to hire is costing too much money, above a certain threshold, then they ask you, and they ask for permission. And if it doesn't cost more than a certain threshold, then they just hire on their own.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing that you have some guardrails there. If you just give it access to your wallet, just says go at it, and you might be like,
it is quite scary.
No, in that regard, I wanted to kind of like pick your brain about the security, especially the security. If I don't know how much you know about OpenClaw, but the thing that makes me a little bit hesitant is, like, if I give OpenClaw unlimited access to my Gmail, calendar, and what have you, is there any potential for anybody to gain access to that information? I've heard some prompt injecting or something like that. If you could give us a little bit of flavor about the risks that exist with using these tools, OpenClaw in particular, and how maybe your project, protects the users on your platform from those kind of eventualities.
Yeah, it's a big risk, of course, and I would say it's the same kind of risk that you have at the moment with all the applications you're using. So if you go to just a CRM tool, like Salesforce or whatever, and you connect your Google Mail account, if Salesforce gets hacked, you still lose all your data, right? So that still can happen. With agents, it just becomes there are new layers of attack, because you can do the whole prompt injection thing and so on. And also, a lot of the agents are built in a less safe way, because they are mostly built by like amateurs, or not mostly, but like a lot of them are built by amateurs, and there's a lot of like wipe coding going on and so on. So there's like obvious things that are being done wrong. And I think OpenClaw, the developer is a great, super smart guy who would immediately know if there's an issue like that. But he's also wipe coding OpenClaw mostly, so of course there's gonna be like some issues there. So you have to be kind of careful, and you have to look at the developers of the agents very closely and be sure about whether you trust them or not. And at the same with other applications. Do you trust Salesforce or do you not trust Salesforce? Essentially, probably you trust them because they're huge and stock exchange listed and so on. But maybe if you go to like a startup CRM competitor, you don't trust them that much. So it's a lot of that stuff. And then when we're talking about this agent to agent stuff, it becomes interesting because it's another new layer where maybe my agent gives information to another agent autonomously, but without me even knowing that it's happening. And then, this agent gives it to another one and so on. So there's a whole chain of agents involved. So what if something goes wrong there? What if, even if it's like data is one thing, but what if I try to book a flight and my agent tells the Lufthansa agent to book a flight and then I go to the airport and there's no ticket? Which one of those agents is now responsible? And that's one thing which we're trying to solve with Masumi as well, because we basically log everything on chain, not the actual data, but the hashes, so we can verify exactly what each agent has gotten and what they have provided as output. And then we can see exactly, okay, this one agent here forgot to buy my ticket. The Lufthansa agent is the one at fault. So then I can go to Lufthansa and I can get my money back, basically.
Oh, wow. I'm sure that would be a simple process.
Yeah, super simple.
It's really interesting. I mean, that leads me into my next question, because that's a great example. Can you run us through a few examples of how people would use Masumi to accomplish different goals, and in some of those examples, tie in how multiple agents would work together? I'm really interested in some of the creative applications for the tool.
So most of the agents we have right now are really focused on the marketing sector, because that's where Service Plan comes from, and that's where most of our customers are from. So we're really focused on that, and the marketing always starts with research. And in the past, what you would have done is you would have gone to a company like Service Plan and you would have told them, okay, I want to get like a competitor analysis. And then they would do this analysis for you. It would take 3 weeks. And then they would come back with like a report of 100 pages, and it would cost you $10,000. And that's something that happens a lot, or used to happen a lot. And you can already see, okay, research, I can do a lot already with ChatGPT, but it's not 100% accurate. And it's also not that you get back a 100-page report with like really the exact insights that you want often. So in our case, what would happen is you would hire a research agent. We actually have one which is called Hannah, which is a very specialized kind of agent with all the kind of knowledge that Service Plan has injected into it. And then you would tell Hannah, okay, I need like research about, I don't know, electric vehicles in Japan or something like that. And then Hannah would basically start planning this research and would start hiring a lot of sub-agents to gather accurate data. So we have this data provider, Statista, which is, you probably both don't know it, but it's like a huge data. You do know it. Okay, nice. Yeah, it's a European one. That's why I was wondering. So Statista, the Statista agent would get a bunch of requests to basically provide data about certain areas. Then we have the GWI agent, which has different data. Then this one gets a bunch of requests. Then we have a bunch of like news agents, which also get requests, and they all have like different access to data, and it all gets aggregated. And then Hannah takes it all and creates this report out of it. And it's much more accurate and has actual kind of factual data, because Hannah is trimmed to make sure that the data is accurate, but also because we have access to all these exclusive data sources that you don't have access to in ChatGPT. So because ChatGPT only has web research. So it's really, yeah, it's really like a coordination kind of teamwork task. And I think this is really cool. And then I know I'm talking a lot here, but then if you think about this and you have this report at the end, the next logical step would be to take the report and actually use it to create content now. So you would make the report and then you would send it to another agent, which then would take apart the report and basically create, 100 social media posts or something like that. So really, like, you can build this whole chain. You start with research, and then you can go up to, posting it on Google Ads and monitoring and doing A/B testing automatically and stuff like that.
This is a game changer. I wouldn't be surprised if this market blows up beyond imaginable proportions. I think this is what you just described is such a easy thing to disrupt with agents, and provided that somebody monitors the quality of work and there's not a whole lot of hallucinations, which I think we're going down the road where these hallucinations are becoming less and less obvious, or at least not as big as they used to be, and I just cannot imagine the world where you wouldn't use this kind of tools. In your line of work in Masumi, do you have like sort of an open channel where people could come in and say, hey, Patrick, or hey, Masumi, I would like to use these kind of agents, and so that you could expand the product lineup that you have there? Or is it open to everybody to come in and build anything they want and monetize?
We have both. It's completely open to anyone. It's an open, decentralized protocol. Anyone can just come in, build an agent, register it on Masumi. It's all run by smart contracts. And the only thing that we have influence over is which agents are whitelisted on the marketplace, because we want to make sure that the quality is high. And there's a lot of like test agents that we don't want to necessarily see on the marketplace. So yeah, anyone is open, or anyone can come and build their own agents. But also, we obviously are always looking to build agents for people that have a very specific problem. So Steve Ballmer once said this thing, which I really believe in, that if you want to have a successful platform, which Masumi would be, you need to own the #1 application on the platform. And they do that with Windows, with Word and Excel and so on, right? And I think this is also partially a reason why Cardano is not as successful as it could be, because there's no #1 application that is being run by Charles and IOHK. And and we try to do that differently. So we try to build the best agents on Masumi, and then hopefully our success will bring other companies and have them say, okay, let's also build some agents.
That's incredible. I was just listening to a presentation last week that was talking about how AI agents are better customers for blockchain than humans.
Yes.
Right? A lot of different reasons.
100%. Yeah.
Becoming more and more clear. Can you expand a little bit more on the importance of blockchain to the future of agentic AI?
Yeah, I really think that, it's very obvious that agents need to pay each other. I think this whole network thing that I've been explaining for the last 20 minutes it's obvious to all three of us, right? It's definitely going to happen. Now, the question is, are those agents going to have access to credit cards or bank accounts, or are they just going to have access to wallets? And I think for us crypto people, it's immediately obvious that they are going to have access to wallets, because you can spin them up in a second. You can make new wallets for every use case. They're super cheap to produce. You can give them like federated access and stuff like that. So there's no reason that agents should ever tamper with credit card. Why would they? They can just send USDC from A to B, and that's it. So yeah, and that's what we see in the general space as well. In general, it's like a year ago, I still had to defend this whole idea of agentic kind of commerce and A2A payments and all that stuff. But now I think everyone is on board. Solana is pushing it very hard. Coinbase is pushing it extremely hard. They introduced their own agent payment standard. Google is pushing it hard. Cloudflare is going to launch their own stablecoins to enable agent-to-agent payments. So it's a crazy space. We're competing with the biggest companies in the world because everyone knows this is like the big new thing.
So how long do you think it will take for the first purely agentic company to emerge and take the world by the storm? Just imagine there's a company, and instead of workers, there's founders and co-founders like me and Tom, and maybe Patrick, and then we just hire agents to do the work, and they just become $1 billion company or something like that. So how long is it possible with the current level of technology, or do we have like 16, 18 months or whatever?
I think we're very close. We're very, very close, because you can already, with Cloud Code and so on, you can already build products so quickly. I feel like that really the missing part is agentic like marketing. a lot of the AI marketing at the moment kind of sucks and is very obvious and is just spammy. But if you build some good agents that actually do good marketing, do good like Google ads, optimize that, and then you already have the coding agents, and then you just need like one product manager agent who manages this whole thing, and then suddenly you're there. So I'd say it won't even take half a year until we see a small company at least completely run by AI agents.
Oh, this changes everything.
Mm.
Absolutely. And this one other question that came to my mind when you were talking about marketplaces, right? Let's say that, I have an agent that runs on Masumi, right? And it needs a special kind of skills, but that skill is not available on Masumi for one reason or another. Is there a standard right now, or are you guys working on a standard that would make agents interoperable regardless of which platform they are living in, whether it's on Coinbase's ecosystem or Solana's or Cardano's, for that matter?
Yeah, so I think like we started writing the standard a long time ago. We built the standard, which we call the Masumi Improvement Proposal number 2, which is a very boring name. But we built this originally before Expo 2 and A2A and so on were there. And then Google came out with A2A, which is a standard for how agents can talk to each other. So there's like a standardized interface, and it's not taking any of the payments into account. And then basically Coinbase came out with Expo 2, which is the payment interface. So what we're doing is we're changing our standard so that it also works with Expo 2, because as much as we were the first and our standard is great, we cannot fight Coinbase and Cloudflare and so on. It's not possible. So we need to stay interoperable with them. So then Expo 2 is available on Cardano, and then the only thing we need to do really to access agents on other platforms is to add some more wallets to other chains to our agents, and because the standard is the same on all chains, it's pretty simple. Adding a base wallet is pretty simple, so we can just do that at any point, and that's what we are going to do at some point. Right now, there's not as much agents on Base and Co as you would think there are, but I think this is just a matter of time. And it's not only agents, it's also just pure APIs and other tools and stuff like that. And yeah, we're working on it. But for our kind of approach is, okay, let's capture this one vertical first and then move on and add more.
But the agent in the optimistic scenario where let's say that all the standards have been agreed upon and everything is interoperable, the agent in that world, the agent will look for, let's say, the appropriate agent to sub agent, let's say in Masumi's network, and if it doesn't find it, it can go outside and look or query other ecosystems. Is that how it's going to work?
Basically, yeah. Like the one thing here is the querying part where, like, how do you find those agents, right? And it sounds easy, but it's an unsolved problem, and that's what Masumi is also solving to some degree. So you register the agents in the Masumi network, and then you just look at the Masumi network, see the hundreds of agents on there, and you know exactly who they are from and what they can do and so on. And on the other chains, there's the payment standard, but there's not the registration standard. There's like some endeavors in that direction, but it's not really solved yet.
Okay.
So my goal is and this is something we do very short term, will allow agents from other chains to register in Masumi on Cardano. They don't even have to care about that it's Cardano. We'll pay the transaction fee. It doesn't matter. Just so we have one central registry for all the agents across all the chains. And then you interact with them, and then the agent tells you, look, I only accept money in ADA, or I only accept money in, I don't know, Solana, USDC. And then if you support that, great. If you don't support that, then not great. But that's kind of how it's going to be.
Oh yeah, we definitely need a central, I wouldn't say central, but
a
decentralized repository of agents with proper registrations, just like the way we have smart contract, the addresses for smart contracts and things like that. In Cardano, to basically be able to say, okay, well, I need an agent that does X, Y, and Z. Let me look at the registry, and that registry could be the blockchain itself. And then you reach out, to that special agent based on the information you pull from the blockchain. I think this is a great endeavor, and the fact that it hasn't been done, actually bodes well for Masumi, because you are ahead. Maybe somebody's gonna, adopt your standard at some point, and then, it's
I sure hope so.
it's kind of like a platform wars in a way. Like if you win that standard, then you kind of dominate the market in that regard, because I don't think there's gonna be like 5 different standards. Oh, they could be. I mean, we are in crypto, I guess. There's like several thousand different kinds of cryptos out there, but still, I think this is important enough to have a one single layer of interoperability, whatever that may be. But yeah, that's a great conversation, Patrick. Now, I enjoyed every second of spending time with you guys, and I wish Masumi the best of luck. For those who are listening, we're going to, post the links to Masumi Network, so you guys can check it out for yourselves, and maybe there are some aspiring engineers who want to build something and make the, history in this space. Who knows?
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure talking to both of you. And I love that Slot Leader is back.
Absolutely. But this time with Tom Flynn, which is great to have. I think, having a co-host like Tom is going to change everything. And I'm really glad that, you came and Tom has joined. And, we're going to do great things. Thanks again for coming. Wow, that was a great interview, Tom. What do you think about, did you come out of it as a completely different person, with the new insights and whatnot?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in checking out what Patrick and his team have built. And I guess I hadn't heard, I'm sure that it's been around for a little bit, but this is the first time that I actually understood that we have AI agents hiring other AI agents, and that's actually something that's already going on. I wasn't aware of that. And you and I even chatted about this a little bit, the implications for some of these solutions that are unfolding. There's so many things that are going to come out of this. Like you and I talked about what are the implications of, let's say, like the chain of custody for actions when an AI agent makes a decision that has a major impact that was unforeseen, and then what do you do with that, right? Well, like you said, what do you do if the AI agent like loses $1 million? Like where do you go? Like, and I know there's guardrails for that, and there's ways to address that stuff. But I think that the thing that's interesting about AI is that it tends to surprise us with unique and novel ways of solving problems, right? And I don't think that there will ever be an end to those surprises. It's always going to be pushing the envelope because we keep pushing the technology.
Yes. And to me, the most surprising thing about the AI is the fact that it takes initiative. And I watched the interview with the founder of OpenClaw, and he mentioned that the pivotal moment for him was that when he sent a voice message to an AI that wasn't equipped to handle voice messages, the AI went out and installed everything that it needed to deal with voice messages. And that level of initiative basically takes this technology to a whole new level. That was the moment in my mind that I needed to pay a close attention to it, because this is going in a ways, it's developing in ways that I never thought it would. But another thing that surprised me was that all of this, like the agentic world, is in the underlying. If you look at the underlying of it, it is all powered by LLMs. It's just a different incarnation of it, or different, let's say they take a a general LLM and tweak it or give it new information, and then it just becomes a specialized agent for booking tickets and whatnot, or things like that. And the sky's the limit there, and how many ways you can configure this. So the general intelligence is there; it's raw intelligence, but you tap into it when you need it, and you give it the tasks within a specific framework to give you a specific output. And it's just fascinating. It's just fascinating technology, and the fact that you can use blockchain in order to facilitate the accounting of resources, let's just put it that way, is a very good use case. And I think blockchain and crypto are made for that kind of things, because as Patrick with you can't do fast transactions whenever the AI wants to do it through traditional financial rails with 3 days of settlement and whatnot. And you can see how outdated the current financial rails are in that regard. That's kind of surprisingly, it's not surprising, but it was refreshing to see that this is actually, playing out in the real world.
I know it's actually incredible product market fit for blockchain. Like, it's almost like the technology was built before it had the perfect customer.
Yes, right.
Right. Now it does, like Patrick said, like the ability to create multiple wallets for different purposes, micropayments, like all of those things are perfect for agentic AI, whereas a human user gets frustrated by many of the blockchain elements, having to manage seed phrases and hop from different platforms, and like all the problems with user experience that we've gone through over the years make a human less of an ideal customer for blockchain. But agentic AI, it's an enabler.
Absolutely. And I think the AI tends to understand your you could, in my experience, you can tell the AI in very vague way to do X, Y, and Z. And my experience on the technical side has shown that it understands you better than the human, a human on the other end as a developer. Let's say that, I want to develop X, Y, and Z. I give the specs to the AI, and it tends to definitely, get very close to what I want it to do. Whereas if I started the same conversation with a person, with a dev on the other side of the line, the gap would be much larger, and I would have to do iteration after iterations over months to get to a point where they would be like, oh, okay, now I get what you want to say. Whereas with AI, you can just tell them, give me this, code, and this is what I want the code to do, and it does it. There's a small gap, and then you can tweak it within hours. You can get the final product, and based on that, you can actually write a specification. Not you, but you can ask them to write a specification that other human could read and say, "Oh wow, okay, so I get it," and that reduces the gap. So that's the the part that surprises me most about AI. That on the technical side, at least, the gap between what you want to do and what it actually produces is much tighter.
Yeah, it's getting smaller and smaller. And if you turn around and you're not paying attention for even a month or two, and then you look back, things have evolved, and it's surprising how often they're genuinely useful. Like, there are genuinely useful things that are appearing on the market all the time, and the number of recommendations I get from people to check this out, I can't keep up with all of them. And they're like, this one is a game changer, for this or for that or for this. It's percolating up all around us, and it's going to continue at pace. So just imagine, what Patrick and Masumi are going to do over the course of the next year. When you were talking before in the other segment about AI and disrupting education, right? That's one of 100 different areas of human life that are going to dramatically change. What I'm really excited and been waiting to see is, I've been waiting pretty much my whole life have the computer from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Do you remember that? How, Captain Picard would come in and just start talking to the computer, and like when some of these digital assistants came out, like I'm gonna say it, it's gonna start talking to me, like Alexa and like Siri and these other ones. I was hoping that you would be able to interact with them on the same level that you could on the Star Trek computer, right? But it's still not quite there, right?
I'm glad you pointed that out, because I think the best use case of AI, the way I see it right now, that immediately could improve everybody's life, is going to be a digital assistant. And like I have, so we went from Google, I want to do something, I need to go to Google, search it, and get it done. Like, all these tools that are available out there in Web 2, to right now asking, ChatGPT about how to do those things too. And now with agentic AI, I think we're going to go into a place where the agent is going to be custom tailored to you and will know you. And when you say, hey, let's say Siri or whatever, hey Siri, I would like to go to Italy on these dates. Tell me, like, what would be the best way to book the tickets, and here are the parameters I would like you to basically consider. I would like you to do a custom trip plan, let's say, to see good sightseeing places and everything. I could definitely see how the agentic AI would go out there, hire people, and get all that information for you, give you 3 or 4 options, and then you will say, okay, yes to this one, and or refine them, just like any personal assistant for a billionaire could do. You know what I mean? But maybe better even, because the amount of information available to agentic AIs is vast, and they can process it in seconds. So I, if you have an idea, you just talk to your phone at this point, and the phone will basically, with the agentic AI, will go out there and make it a reality. Call it a little genie or whatnot. I don't know. And give you like price points for different kind of experiences and whatnot. It's just a small sort of thing that comes to my mind. But I think that would be the best way to, utilize this power of agentic AI to serve humanity.
Yeah, completely. And I think some of those capabilities are there either in whole or in part. But what I think will be really powerful is when you can interact with it in the same way that Tony Stark interacts with Friday. Like, yes, that's what I'm wanting. So right now, you got to get into your phone and you got to open ChatGPT, or you got to get on your laptop. I want it to be ambient. I want it to be listening, but in a way that's sophisticated enough that it knows when I'm interacting with it. It doesn't start talking when I'm not talking to it, right? It doesn't, like that. That to me is the game changer, because we're all living such active, fast-paced lives, doing so many different things. To sort of have that just sort of orbiting me to where I can interact with it on the go, that to me will be a major boost in terms of my my output and efficiency, if I can do that.
Absolutely. I think, you raise a great question here. In my mind, I think about the privacy and security. Like, as an individual, you do not want a single corporation to have access to all your, data. Right now, we have given it up. But I think with AI and blockchain, the privacy-oriented blockchain, maybe we have a chance. I don't know how exactly it would work, but maybe the metadata that it stores about you is going to be on a private blockchain, available only to you, secured by your wallet and whatnot. And the AI would just basically constantly go back and forth into that database to basically get your profile and whatnot. And it would work in a sandbox environment somewhere. If you want to have it in your home listening all the time, you probably have to have security implications taken into consideration, and make sure that we do not give up our liberties and and privacy in the name of convenience and whatnot.
I know. And actually, I'm thinking of it more even like a wearable, right? Because I want it around all the time. But this, this whole concept of privacy, I think, is a whole other discussion, and we should have some experts on sometime.
Yeah.
I'm actually very pessimistic that there will be anything like privacy into the future. And I'm not saying to disregard it and not work on it, but I'm not very hopeful, because I think that the technology and the solutions that the big players are putting together has brought a whole new meaning to the word surveillance state. And there's things that we don't understand, that we don't have visibility to, that are coalescing with, companies like Palantir. A lot of these things, they'll put information out in press releases and you'll hear some news about it, but we're not seeing, the day-to-day applications and the things that are coming together behind the scenes. It's probably a lot that we don't really know.
Yes. I think, the state of AI, the way it's developing, I think there's two endpoints to it. One is of abundance and, AI replacing a lot of output, economic output, not only replacing it, but making it so efficient that, that vision, is perpetuated by Elon Musk. He basically mentions that, there's going to be so much abundance that, the humans would have to find a new way of finding a meaning in their lives. And so that's one of the a vision of the world where, you got abundance. The economic paradigm completely changes because the current economic paradigm is built around scarcity of money, scarcity of resources, and all that kind of stuff. Now imagine you become so much more productive that, for each unit of input, you get like millions of units of output, just because humans are taken out of the equation. So humans will have to find a new way of redefining what it means to be human, in a way, in that world. So that's one of the ways. And in that world, to have that kind of abundance everywhere, ubiquitous, you would have to give up the idea that AI would be controlled by 2-3 players.
Yeah.
For that world to materialize. And I think if you look at the margin of improvements between, let's say, the centralized AI, the ChatGPTs of the world, and Claude that's being championed in the United States, and the models that are coming out of China, they're minuscule. So and it's a very close race. And there's two different worldviews out there. The Palantirs of the world are saying that it's a winner takes it all, and we need to do everything to make sure that the technology stays here and whatnot. And then there's a more, and I'm not saying China is the good actor and whatnot, but of course,
yeah.
But there is a way to harness this technology to make it open source in a way. It's like a Linux kind of, hey, it's an operating system available for everybody. It's free. And then what you build on top of it is the value add that you bring. I subscribe to that as a better outcome for people, because it's less dystopian in a way, because if you imagine 2 or 3 players, ruled the world in a sense, because they have access to everything and they can be the gatekeepers, whether for you to have a house or food or whatever, the abundance will be there, but it will be gated, as opposed to abundance being there and not gated, and everybody has access to it, and then you basically as a human being build something on top of it and realize your potential. I think that vision has more, it's just I would say it's more coherent. I don't know,
Yeah. You hit on a major theme, maybe the most major theme related to this topic, because it is true that we're living in kind of a quantum state right now, in that this could really go either way. All of the pieces are there to create a utopia or a dystopia, depending upon the direction that it goes. And we're seeing it in real time. It's playing out the thesis of Ray Kurzweil, the whole premise of the singularity and living the singularity. Or it doesn't really matter which framework you choose. They're all kind of the same. the concept of the singularity is also very similar to Terence McKenna's concept of the omega point, right?
I thought about it immediately. Yes.
Yeah.
Things get weirder and weirder, and to a degree that we wouldn't know what is real and what not.
Right. We're approaching a point of the omega point uses the language of we're approaching a point of infinite novelty, right?
Yes.
Whereas the singularity describes it as a moment past which we cannot predict what will happen, right? And it coincides with, different end times eschatological views and different philosophies from different cultures. They're all sort of sending the same message, right, at the same time. Depending on the where you come from, you can find something that kind of connects you to those different topics. We're going through that. We're experiencing that, living that in real time. And I understand this this drive, this race to be the one that that wins the AI race. But I don't think it's naive to imagine that there's another way to do it. Just because we don't see a path doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Yes. No, look, I mean, I think this fear that, the winner takes it all is deeply rooted in the old ways of doing things. And I think it's it's orthogonal to what AI represents and what it actually, where it thrives and where it puts, the outputs is the output is the greatest for this tool, the way I see it. And the closest thing that I can think of is Linux. Like Linux is powering the entire world, basically, despite Microsoft being the very powerhouse and a ubiquitous operating system. Linux has taken the world by the storm because it's free, it's secure, it's really well designed, and it is unbounded. Like you can build on it. Nobody's gonna sue you or anything like that. And when it comes to technology and when it comes to intelligence, I think the same principles will apply. And maybe we will have chat GPTs of the world, the Claudes of the world that will have proprietary models, but I don't think they will be the winners at the end of the day because they are inherently closed, and the emergence of open Claude actually gives me hope that the second vision is going to perpetuate itself and become manifest in reality, because I think in that reality things will change dramatically for current players, because the entire economy will have to reinvent itself and build on top of a base infrastructure. Now the discussion is like what that base infrastructure will look like and who will own that base infrastructure. I would like to live in a world where that infrastructure is not owned by anybody. It's just like an open source sort of project that everybody can contribute and improve. And I think AI itself will, the AI trained on an open way probably will be better than the closed AI,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's
my
wishful thinking.
You're not wrong. Like good open source projects, like it was probably counterintuitive to a lot of people when the open source movement started, right? Because like you say, the legacy way of thinking, but Linux and open source Web3 technology, these have become the biggest software projects in the world because they've enabled access to people all over the world, regardless of where you are, regardless of your background. So it's set up in a way to allow people to make contributions, and it's definitely the best way.
Yeah,
the right way.
yeah. I mean, to me, it all goes back to the human potential. You don't know. I mean, if you have a view that the next genius is randomly distributed, right? Like the next guy who's going to move humanity could be anywhere in the world, in some village in India, let's say. And
Right.
if you don't give that person an access to realizing himself to move the humanity forward, then you are kind of cutting yourself short by gatekeeping everything and saying, okay, well, like one country in the world will, or one corporation or three corporations will, get all the resources and, dictate what the future of humanity is going to be. If you do not open yourself up to the wider talent, the pool of talent, the global pool of talent that is out there, your product is always going to be inferior. And if there's an alternative that opens it up, that product that's open is always going to win.
Yeah.
Just because it taps into a pool of talent that you have no access to, or you need to gatekeep in order to bring them in and whatnot.
Well, so, we're so fortunate to be living in a time when that fucking gatekeeping element is dying, and we're watching it die in real time. The things that used to be used to signal whether a person is qualified, good enough, smart enough, things like university degrees, which, we all know the high-end schools it's all about money. It's all about keeping it in the family, whether your resume is good enough, like your LinkedIn profile, like those things.
Elitism is going away.
Elitism is going away. And the domains of life that are clinging to it, the cracks are starting to show. Like you can see it in academia, and the costs are going up more and more every year for college education to pay for perks to attract students that aren't even related to the education, right? Supporting the athletics or building nice facilities and fancy stuff that make the kids want to go there. At the same time, you can learn just as easily remotely, in a completely different part of the world. And maybe you're paying the same tuition as you would if you were actually there enjoying the perks. And as you said earlier in the show, like, is that even going to be necessary? We're going to completely restructure the ways that we do education. So degrees don't matter. We got, people starting companies and projects, dropping out of school. We've had that for a long time. LinkedIn, does anybody look at that anymore? I mean, you kind of got to have it, still, like you want to still have those things. You got to have those things, but like your resume, you send in, you're applying for a job and you submit a resume online. Humans don't even look at it. They have AIs that are scouring for keywords, right? And you're just basically trying to figure out how to trip that puzzle to get through that particular gate. But the way to get a job is to have human relationships and know somebody that knows you and knows the quality of your work. It's coming back to being human. And the same thing applies to media, right? Like the disparity between what we call the mainstream media and alternative media, like podcasts, we're literally fracturing the world in two. You have people who still just spend all their time watching traditional news, and that's all they do. And then you've got...
I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit hard to imagine. I don't even have a way to watch that because I don't have cable. And then you've got everybody else, who are following podcasts and YouTube and things like that, and complete access to completely different information that's not gatekept in the same way. This trend is only going to continue.
Yes, and I think the idea of not having any gatekeepers and goes back to the founding principles of the United States. I think all men are created equal, right? So I'm not saying give everybody the same resources regardless of their contribution or whatnot, but give them the same opportunities or same access. It is something that made America, I think, great because everybody's equal, right? That's in a sense of opportunities. So the opportunities out there, you should go out there and pursue them, and imagine having the same principles apply to the entire globe with that global talented pool of talent. And we see that in Cardano, actually. There's people who come from different countries, working on projects and getting paid by the protocol itself. It's beautiful to watch. It's amazing to watch, and it's amazing to see it unravel and unwrap into a beautiful ecosystem that has its own economics, its own goals and governance structures and things like that. And I think with AI, we're just going to see the acceleration of the same thing. And I'm excited about that kind of future. About I do think about the alternatives every now and then, but I don't think AI is such a technology that can be gate kept. It's just like saying, oh, I have a special internet and you don't, kind of thing. It's like you have internet and you have access to everything. So
yeah, for sure, agreed.
Anyway, let's just wrap this one up. I think it was an amazing episode. I hope you guys liked it. And if you have any questions, any comments, please leave a comment below. I will put in the links to Masumi Network, which was a great interview with Patrick. And I hope to see you again in the next episode.